The deep space listening post on Titan was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Dr. Maya Rodriguez sat at her desk, watching the endless stream of data flow across her screens. She had been monitoring space communications for 3 years. Now, and most days brought nothing but cosmic background noise and the occasional signal from Earth's colonies. Then something different appeared on her screen. The signal was strong and came from beyond the solar system. Maya's heart started beating faster as she realized this was not random noise. This was a message, and it was meant for Earth. She quickly called her supervisor. "Commander Park, you need to see this right away." Commander James Park rushed to Maya's station. He was a tall man with gray hair who had spent 20 years in Earth's space defense program. When he saw the data, his face went pale. "Are you sure this is real?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The signal is clear, and the translation software is working on it now. But Commander, this is not from any human ship or station." The translation came through. Slowly, the message was in multiple alien languages, but the meaning was clear and terrifying. It was a formal declaration of war against the planet Earth and all human colonies. The message came from something called the Zephyrian hegemony. They claimed to represent 12 different alien species from the outer regions of the galaxy. The message said that humans had become too dangerous and needed to be stopped before they could threaten the established order of space. Commander Park immediately sent the message to Earth. Within hours, emergency meetings were happening in every major government building on the planet. Admiral Sarah Chun, the head of Earth's new Terran Defense Council, called together military leaders from every nation. Admiral Chun was known for being calm under pressure, but this was unlike anything she had ever faced. She stood in the main briefing room in Geneva, looking at the faces of generals and admirals who had never expected to fight aliens. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we have received a declaration of war from an alien alliance. They have given us 30 days to surrender completely, or they will attack Earth and all our colonies." The room erupted in worried voices. General Thompson from the American forces stood up. "Admiral, what do we know about their military strength?" "Very little," Admiral Chun replied. "Our best guess is that they have been watching us for some time. They seem to know about our technology and our space capabilities, but we know almost nothing about them." Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, Earth's top expert on space technology, raised her hand. "Admiral, based on the signal strength and the complexity of their message, they are clearly more advanced than us. Their ships probably have better weapons and shields than anything we have." Admiral Chun nodded. "That may be true, but we are not going to surrender without a fight. Earth has faced difficult enemies before, and we have always found a way to survive." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy on a planet called Valder Prime, ancient beings were watching these events with great interest. The Valdorians had been observing galactic politics for 10,000 years. They were old and wise, and they had seen many civilizations rise and fall. Elder Corvain sat in the great observatory, watching the news spread across the galaxy's communication networks. Other Valdorians gathered around him, curious about this new development. "The young species called humans has caught the attention of the hegemony," Corvain said in his deep, calm voice. "This should be interesting to watch." "How long do you think they will last?" asked Elder Tysa. "The hegemony has destroyed dozens of civilizations. These humans seem very primitive compared to the Zephyrians." Corvain was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps, but there is something different about these humans. They have spread across their solar system very quickly. They have built impressive machines with limited resources. And their communications show something unusual." "What do you mean?" Tysa asked. "They argue with each other constantly, but when threatened, they work together. This is not common among young species. Most collapse into fighting among themselves when faced with external threats." Other Valdorians began placing bets on how long humanity would survive. Most thought the humans would last less than 6 months. A few thought they might hold out for a year if they were very lucky, but Corvain did not place a bet. He had a feeling that this conflict would be different from the others they had observed. Back on Earth, Admiral Chun was working day and night to prepare for the coming war. Earth's space fleet was small and mostly designed for exploration and colony support, not for fighting a war against advanced aliens. But humans had one advantage that the aliens might not expect. They were good at adapting quickly to new situations. Earth's engineers and scientists immediately began working on new weapons and ship designs. They studied every piece of information they could find about the Zephyrian message, looking for clues about alien technology. Captain Marcus Webb, a former asteroid miner, volunteered to convert his mining ship into a military vessel. "Admiral," he said, "my ship may not look like much, but it's tough and it has some big mining charges that could do serious damage to an enemy ship." Admiral Chun looked at the rough, practical man and smiled. "Captain Webb, I think we're going to need every advantage we can get. Welcome to Earth's defense fleet." As the 30-day deadline approached, the galaxy watched and waited. The Zephyrian hegemony prepared their massive fleet for what they thought would be an easy victory against a primitive species, but they had never fought humans before. They did not understand that humans had survived and thrived on a dangerous planet by being tough, clever, and absolutely refusing to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. The war was about to begin, and the galaxy held its breath. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster than light, travel at the edge of the solar system with the confidence of hunters approaching defenseless prey. Supreme Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Behind him stretched a fleet of 200 warships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. Vextar was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms that moved with deadly grace. He had conquered 17 star systems for the hegemony, and had never faced serious resistance. These humans would surrender quickly once they saw the power arrayed against them. "Begin the scan of their pathetic system," he ordered his tactical officer. "Locate their military installations so we can destroy them first." But as the sensors swept through the solar system, Vextar frowned. The readings were not what he expected. Instead of a few primitive ships hiding near their home planet, he saw dozens of vessels scattered throughout the system. They were positioned near asteroids, moons, and space stations in what looked like defensive formations. "Commander," his tactical officer said nervously, "the humans appear to have a larger fleet than our intelligence suggested." Vextar studied the display. Many of the human ships looked strange. Some appeared to be converted cargo vessels and mining ships. Others were clearly new designs, built quickly with whatever materials the humans could find. "No matter," Vextar sighed, "quantity cannot overcome our superior technology. Move the fleet toward their largest moon. We will show them the futility of resistance." The Zephyrian fleet began its advance toward Jupiter's moons, where Earth's hastily assembled defense. Fleet waited. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the battleship Terra's Pride, watching the alien ships approach on her tactical display. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Collins, "we count 200 enemy vessels. They outgun us 3-1. Admiral Chun nodded calmly. "Lieutenant, send the signal to all ships. Execute Plan Defiant." Throughout the solar system, human ships began moving. But they did not retreat as the Zephyrians expected. Instead, they moved closer to the enemy fleet, using asteroids and moons to hide their approach. Captain Marcus Webb sat in the command chair of his converted mining ship, Defiant Hope. His vessel was ugly and scarred from years of asteroid mining, but it had thick armor and powerful engines. More importantly, it carried something the aliens would not expect. "Captain," called his engineer, "the mining charges are ready." "All 50 of them," Webb smiled grimly. "Good. Let's show these aliens what human miners can do." The first battle began near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. 3 Zephyrian destroyers moved in to attack what they thought was a small human patrol. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by ships that fought like nothing they had ever seen. Human ships did not follow the traditional rules of space combat. They used the gravity of moons to slingshot around and attack from unexpected angles. They hid behind asteroids and launched surprise attacks. When their weapons were not strong enough to penetrate alien shields, they rammed their ships into enemy vessels. Commander Zaltek watched in shock as a human frigate deliberately crashed into his destroyer's engine section. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash, but the alien ship was completely destroyed while some of the human crew escaped in lifeboats. What kind of species sacrifices their own ships like this? He asked his bridge crew. No one had an answer. The real surprise came when Captain Webb's Defiant Hope approached the Zephyrian flagship. The alien gunners targeted the ugly mining ship, but Webb had spent years dodging asteroid chunks and knew how to make his ship dance through space. All power to forward shields, Webb ordered. Take us right at their bridge. The Defiant Hope charged straight at the Eternal Dominion. Zephyrian weapons hammered its shields, but the tough mining ship kept coming. At the last second, Webb turned his ship and scraped along the side of the alien dreadnought. Now, Webb shouted. His crew released all 50 mining charges directly against the enemy ship's hull. The explosions tore massive holes in the Eternal Dominion's armor and destroyed several weapon systems. The mighty dreadnought was suddenly crippled and helpless. Supreme Commander Vextar staggered as his ship shook from the explosions. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. Report, he demanded. Commander, we have lost main power and 70% of our weapons. The humans used some kind of explosive charges against our hull. Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. A primitive mining ship had just crippled his flagship using mining equipment as weapons. This was not how civilized species fought wars. All ships, retreat to the outer system, he ordered. We need to regroup and study these humans more carefully. As the Zephyrian fleet pulled back, news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light through the quantum communication network. On dozens of worlds, alien diplomats and military leaders watched the recordings in amazement. The humans had not won the battle, but they had not lost either. More importantly, they had shocked the mighty Zephyrian hegemony into retreating. No one had expected this outcome. On Valder Prime, Elder Corvain watched the battle reports with great interest. Around him, other Valdorians were changing their bets about human survival time. Remarkable, said Elder Tysa. They fight like wild animals, but with the intelligence of advanced beings. They use everything as a weapon. Corvain nodded slowly. The hegemony expected to fight a civilized war with rules and honor. But these humans fight to survive, not to follow traditions. This changes everything. Across the galaxy, neutral species began sending secret messages to Earth. They offered intelligence about Zephyrian tactics and technology. Some even offered to sell weapons and supplies to the humans. The hegemony had ruled through fear for centuries. But now, for the first time, other species saw that the mighty alliance could be challenged. The humans had shown that courage and determination could overcome superior technology. Admiral Chun received reports of these secret offers of help. She smiled as she read them. Earth was no longer alone in this fight. The war was just beginning. But already the galaxy was changing. The humans had earned something more valuable than victory in their first battle. They had earned respect. 3 months after the Jupiter battle, the war had spread across multiple star systems. The Zephyrian hegemony had brought in more ships and weapons, but they were discovering that fighting humans was unlike anything they had experienced before. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked day and night in her laboratory on Mars. Around her, pieces of captured Zephyrian technology covered every table and workbench. She had been trying to understand alien weapons and shields for weeks, And finally, she was making progress. The energy patterns are completely different from ours, she explained to Admiral Chun during a video call. But I think I understand how their shields work now. Give me 2 more weeks and I can build something to get through them. Admiral Chun nodded. Do whatever you need, Doctor. Our pilots are brave, but they need better weapons to fight these aliens. Dr. Vasquez was not the only human learning from the enemy. All across Earth and its colonies, engineers and scientists were studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Humans had always been good at taking things apart and building them better. Captain Lisa Park commanded a small group of human ships that specialized in hit-and-run attacks. Her squadron had developed new tactics that confused and frustrated Zephyrian commanders. Remember, she told her pilots before their next mission, we are not trying to win big battles. We are trying to make them afraid to leave their main fleets. Attack fast, cause damage, and get out before they can respond. Her ships would appear suddenly near a Zephyrian supply convoy, destroy several ships, and disappear before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The aliens had superior technology, but humans were learning to use speed and surprise to level the playing field. The psychological warfare was just as important as the physical battles. Humans did things that made no sense to alien military. Thinking, they rescued enemy survivors from destroyed ships and treated them well. They sent medical supplies to Zephyrian forces that were stranded on hostile planets. They even returned captured alien officers with messages of peace. Supreme Commander Vextar found these human actions more disturbing than their military tactics. He stood in his war room, looking at reports from his subordinates who seemed increasingly confused about how to fight this enemy. Commander, reported his intelligence officer, the humans rescued 50 of our crew members from the destroyed cruiser Swift Strike. They provided medical care and then released them at a neutral space station. Vextar's 4 arms moved with agitation. Why would they do this? It makes no military sense. Prisoners should be held for information or used for prisoner exchanges. Sir, our returned officers report that the humans treated them with respect and even shared their food with them. Some of our crew are now questioning why we are fighting this war. This was exactly what Vextar feared. The hegemony ruled through strength and fear. If their own forces began to doubt the rightness of their cause, the entire alliance could collapse. The problems were spreading beyond just the military. On the hegemony world of Keldon Prime, the native population was starting to ask uncomfortable questions. They had been told that humans were a dangerous threat that needed to be destroyed. But the evidence they saw painted a different picture. Ambassador Thrender of the Keldani, people met secretly with other planetary representatives. The humans have had many chances to attack our civilian targets, he said quietly. But they only target military ships and bases. They even warn our colonies before attacking nearby military stations so civilians can evacuate. That is very different from what the Zephyrians told us, replied Ambassador Colvin from Thaxis. They said humans were savage barbarians who would kill anyone in their path. I have been watching the war reports, Thunder continued. The humans fight fiercely, but they follow rules of conduct that even we struggle to maintain. They care for wounded enemies and protect non-combatants. How can such beings be the monsters the hegemony claims them to be? These conversations were happening on several hegemony worlds. The member species had joined the alliance for protection and shared prosperity. But now many were beginning to wonder if they were fighting on the wrong side. Meanwhile, on the neutral trading station of Kepler Station, human diplomats were working to build new alliances. Ambassador David Kim had arrived 3 weeks ago with a small delegation. He was meeting with representatives from dozens of species who were not part of the hegemony. We do not seek to replace one empire with another, Ambassador Kim explained. To a gathering of alien diplomats, Earth wants to build partnerships based on mutual respect and shared benefits. The alien representatives were intrigued but cautious. They had seen many species make similar promises before gaining power, only to become tyrants themselves. "What proof do you offer that humans are different?" asked Ambassador Zilla of the Centauri Republic. Kim smiled and activated a holographic display. "These are recordings of our military actions over the past 3 months. You will see that human forces have consistently protected civilian populations, even when it put our own soldiers at greater risk." The aliens watched as human ships diverted from military targets to evacuate alien civilians from a planet under attack. They saw human medics treating wounded Zephyrian soldiers alongside their own wounded. They observed human commanders refusing to use certain weapons because they would cause too much collateral damage. "Remarkable," whispered Ambassador Zilla. "Your species fights with honor even against enemies who show you none." By the end of the meeting, 6 neutral species had agreed to provide intelligence and supplies to Earth. More importantly, word was spreading through neutral space that humans could be trusted to keep their promises. The war was changing the entire galaxy in ways that no one had expected. Species that had never spoken to each other were now sharing information about human activities. The rigid power structures that had existed for centuries were starting to crack. On Earth, Admiral Chun received daily reports about these political developments. She knew that winning the military war was only part of the challenge. The real victory would come from convincing the galaxy that there was a better way to organize civilization. "The hegemony rules through fear," she told her staff during a strategy meeting. "But fear only works when people believe they have no other choice. We are showing them that cooperation and mutual respect can be stronger than domination." Dr. Vasquez finally achieved her breakthrough with alien technology. Her new plasma weapons could penetrate Zephyrian shields, and her improved ship designs were faster and more maneuverable than anything in space. But the most important human advantage was not technological. It was their ability to inspire others, to believe in something better than the old ways of doing things. The galaxy was starting to choose sides, and many were choosing to stand with Earth. 1 year after the war began, the Zephyrian hegemony was falling apart. 3 of their member species had officially withdrawn from the alliance. The Kaldani, Thaxians, and Vrex had all announced that they would no longer fight against humanity. Ambassador Thrender stood before the Hegemony Council and delivered his people's final decision. The Kaldani people refused to continue this war. "We have seen enough evidence that humans are not the threat you claimed them to be. In fact, they may be exactly what this galaxy needs." Supreme Commander Vextar watched his alliance crumble and felt desperate. He had committed too much to this war to back down now. If the hegemony failed to defeat the humans, his own position and possibly his life would be forfeit. "We still have 9 species in our alliance," he told his remaining commanders. "We still outnumber the humans. We can win this war if we strike directly at their home world." But Admiral Chun had other plans. She stood in the strategy room aboard her flagship, studying star charts with her senior officers. Captain Webb, now promoted to Commodore after his heroic actions at Jupiter, pointed to a system far from Earth. "Admiral, our intelligence sources say this is Zarkith Prime, the hegemony's capital world. It's heavily defended, but if we could strike there, it would show the galaxy that even the hegemony's heart can be reached," Admiral Chun finished. "But it's a dangerous gamble. We would be taking our entire fleet far from Earth, leaving our home system vulnerable." Dr. Vasquez, now serving as the fleet's chief technology officer, activated a holographic display. "Admiral, I believe we can do this. Our new ships are faster than anything the hegemony has. We can reach their capital before they can bring their main fleet back to defend it." The plan was risky beyond measure. Earth's fleet would travel deep into enemy territory, attack the most heavily defended system in the hegemony, and somehow survive long enough to make their point. Admiral Chun looked around the room at her officers. These were people who had been miners, cargo pilots, and scientists just 1 year ago. Now they were planning the most audacious military operation in galactic history. "If we do this," she said quietly, "there's no guarantee we'll make it home. The hegemony will throw everything they have at us." Commodore Webb spoke for all of them. "Admiral, we've come this far by doing things nobody expected. Let's finish what we started." The human fleet departed for Zarketh Prime in secret, using new faster-than-light routes that Dr. Vasquez had discovered by studying captured alien navigation data. 47 ships carried the hopes of not just humanity, but of every species that dreamed of freedom from hegemony rule on Zarketh Prime. Defense Commander Zixthul felt confident in his planet's safety. Hundreds of defense platforms surrounded the world, and 3 full battle fleets patrolled the system. No enemy had ever successfully attacked the hegemony capital. "Commander," his sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system." Zixthul looked at his displays and felt his confidence evaporate. 47 human ships had appeared in perfect formation, already moving at attack speed toward his defenses. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" he demanded. "Sir, they approached from a direction where we have no sensors, through the asteroid field that we considered impossible to navigate." Admiral Chun's voice came across all communication channels, broadcasting to every ship and station in the system. "People of Zarketh Prime, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are not here to conquer or destroy. We are here to prove that the age of rule by fear is ending." The battle for Zarketh Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moved through the hegemony defenses like dancers, using tactics that seemed to blend art with warfare. They disabled defense platforms instead of destroying them when possible. They targeted military installations while carefully avoiding civilian areas. Commodore Webb led a squadron of fast attack ships against the orbital shipyards. Instead of simply destroying them, his ships used precision strikes to disable the facilities without killing the workers inside. "Attention! Zephyrian workers," Webb broadcast to the shipyard. "We are evacuating your facility. You have 15 minutes to reach the emergency pods." The Zephyrian workers, expecting to be killed by the savage humans they had been told about, were amazed when the human ships actually waited for them to evacuate before destroying the empty shipyard. Similar scenes played out across the system. Human forces showed a level of restraint and precision that shocked their enemies. They were winning not just through superior tactics, but through superior values. Defense Commander Zixthul found himself in an impossible situation. His defenses were crumbling, but the humans were offering safe passage to any hegemony forces that surrendered. Many of his own officers were beginning to question why they were fighting. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "Admiral Chun is requesting a meeting under a flag of truce." Zixthul realized he had no choice. His forces were beaten, and continuing to fight would only result in more unnecessary casualties. Meeting took place aboard a neutral medical ship that the humans had allowed into the battle zone to rescue wounded from both sides. Zixthul met Admiral Chun face to face for the first time. He had expected to meet a savage warrior. Instead, he found a calm, professional officer who treated him with respect, despite having just defeated his forces. "Commander Zixthul, Admiral," Chun said, "I want you to understand something. We are not here to destroy the Zephyrian people or any other species. We are here to end a system that keeps the galaxy in fear." "What do you want from us?" Zixthul asked. "We want you to see that there is a better way. Your people can be part of a galaxy where strength comes from cooperation, not domination." Within hours, the news of Zarketh Prime's fall spread across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. The mighty hegemony capital had surrendered to a human fleet. But the real shock came from what happened next. Instead of occupying the planet or demanding tribute, the human fleet began helping to repair the damage from the battle. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian technicians to restore power and communications. Admiral Sheehan established a temporary government that included representatives from all species, living on Zarkith Prime for the first time in centuries. The capital world was not ruled by fear, but by consent of the governed. The remaining hegemony fleets, racing back to defend their capital, arrived to find something unprecedented. The human fleet was still there, but they were not behaving like conquerors. They were behaving like liberators. Supreme Commander Vextar, arriving with the last loyal hegemony forces, demanded the human surrender. Admiral Chun's response was, broadcast across the galaxy, Commander Vextar, we offer you the same choice we have offered everyone else. Join us in building a better galaxy, or continue fighting for a system that no longer exists. 3 more hegemony species switched sides. That day, the age of the hegemony was ending, and the age of freedom was beginning. 6 months after the fall of Zarkith Prime, the galaxy was a completely different place. The Zephyrian hegemony had officially dissolved, with all remaining member species voting to join the new alliance that humanity had proposed. Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive space platform being built in neutral space. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from hundreds of different worlds arriving for the first galactic assembly. It was a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just 18 months ago. The station itself was a symbol of the new galaxy. Instead of being built by one dominant species and imposed on others, Unity Station was designed and constructed by volunteers from dozens of worlds working together. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian architects, Keldani artists, and Vrex technicians. Dr. Vasquez joined Admiral Chun at the viewing window. She had been promoted to Director of Galactic Technology Exchange, helping species share knowledge and innovations peacefully. It's hard to believe how much has changed, Dr. Vasquez said, watching a group of former hegemony ships arriving in formation with Earth vessels. A year and a half ago, those same ships were shooting at us. Admiral Chun nodded. The easy part was winning the war. Building something better afterward has been much harder. The challenge of creating a truly democratic galactic government had tested human diplomatic skills just as much as the war had tested their military abilities. Every species had different ideas about how decisions should be made, how resources should be shared, and how conflicts should be resolved. Ambassador Kim had spent months traveling between worlds, listening to concerns and helping to craft compromises that everyone could accept. The humans had insisted that every species, no matter how small or technologically limited, should have an equal voice in the new Galactic Council. Some species have billions of citizens, complained Ambassador Zilla during one of the early negotiations. Others have only millions. How can their votes be equal? Ambassador Kim had smiled and shared something from Earth's history. On our world, we learned that democracy is not about the size of your population or the strength of your military. It is about the right of every people to determine their own future. This principle had become the foundation of the new Galactic Democratic Alliance. Each species would govern itself as it chose, but all would work together on issues that affected everyone: trade, exploration, defense, and the sharing of knowledge. The former hegemony worlds had embraced this new system with enthusiasm that surprised everyone. On Thaxis, the people had held their first free elections in over 1,000 years. On Keldon Prime, former military commanders were now working as teachers and engineers, helping to rebuild their society. Even the Zephyrians themselves had adapted to the new reality. Many of their former military officers had joined the new Galactic Peacekeeping Force, an organization dedicated to protecting all species from aggression and helping to resolve conflicts peacefully. Former Supreme Commander Vextar had undergone the most dramatic transformation of all. After surrendering his remaining forces, he had requested a private meeting with Admiral Chun. She had expected anger or defiance, but instead found a being struggling to understand how his worldview had been so completely wrong. "My people were taught that strength meant domination," he had told her. "We believed that showing mercy was weakness and that only the strong deserved to survive. You have shown us that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down." Vextar now served as an advisor to the new government, helping other former hegemony officers adapt to a galaxy where cooperation was valued over conquest. The transformation had not been without challenges. Some groups on various worlds resisted the changes, preferring the old ways of strict hierarchy and rule by force. But these movements found little support as more and more citizens experienced the benefits of freedom and cooperation. Trade between worlds flourished as species shared resources and knowledge freely. Scientific discoveries that might have taken centuries were accomplished in months as researchers from different worlds combined their expertise. Art, music, and literature flowed between cultures, creating new forms of beauty that no single species could have imagined. Elder Corvain of the Valdorians had observed all these changes with great interest. His people had remained neutral observers for 10,000 years, but the transformation of the galaxy had finally moved them to action. "We have watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia," he announced to the Valdorian Council. "We have seen empires built on conquest crumble into dust. But we have never seen anything like what these humans have created." For the first time in their recorded history, the Valdorians decided to join galactic civilization. Their representative, Elder Tysa, arrived at Unity Station for the first galactic assembly with ancient knowledge and wisdom that enriched the new alliance even further. The assembly itself was a celebration of diversity and cooperation. Delegates from over 300 species gathered to establish the formal structure of their new government. They created laws to protect the rights of all citizens, established courts to resolve disputes fairly, and formed exploration teams to discover new worlds together. Admiral Chun was offered the position of supreme leader of the new alliance, but she declined. "This government belongs to all of us," she said in her speech to the assembly. "No single person or species should have that much power." Instead, the assembly created a rotating council with representatives from all member species. Leadership would be shared, ensuring that no one group could dominate the others. Captain Marcus Webb, now Admiral Webb, was put in charge of the new galactic exploration fleet. His first mission was to search for other civilizations that might want to join the alliance, but with instructions to offer partnership, never conquest. As the first session of the Galactic Assembly concluded, Admiral Chun found herself back at the observation window of Unity Station. The view was even more spectacular now, with ships from across the galaxy creating a tapestry of lights against the stars. Dr. Vasquez joined her again. Along with Ambassador Kim and Admiral Webb, they stood together in comfortable silence, watching the future take shape before their eyes. "The galaxy held its breath when the hegemony declared war on us," Admiral Chun said finally. "They expected us to fall or to become conquerors ourselves. Instead," Ambassador Kim added, "we taught them how to breathe free." The war that had begun with a declaration of humanity's destruction had ended with the birth of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. It was built not on fear or force, but on the simple human belief that all thinking beings deserve dignity, freedom, and the chance to reach for the stars together. The galaxy had indeed held its breath, and humanity had given it something better to breathe.